Are we good? Okay, very good. Ready?
Yes, go ahead, thank you.
Ready? Okay, good morning, everybody. I would like to hereby call our Ways and Means Committee meeting on April 2nd of 2024 to order. May I please ask everybody to raise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. Petra, your roll call, please. Here.
Mr. Bell?
Here.
Werner?
Here.
Kay? Here. Ms. Tillerson? Here. Ms. Schubert? Here.
Okay. As I said, welcome this morning. My name is Michael Heidingsfelder. I'm the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. I welcome you all to be here today. We have a very full agenda, so I want to discipline all of us to stick to what we need to get accomplished here this morning, because we have a 1 o'clock then for the town council. May I go along the agenda and first ask for the approval of the meeting minutes of the, no, yes, we have that one. The meeting minutes for the Ways and Means Committee meeting of March 5th. Can I please have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Any comments? I forwarded a few little ones to Petra already. Anybody else okay with it?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. All good? Okay, can I ask you all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, next agenda item is a presentation by MUSC, Tom Crawford. Mr. Crawford, if you want to please step forward and give you your spiel.
Here's my spiel. So thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for everybody who's in attendance. So I'm Tom Crawford. I'm the System Chief Operating Officer of MUSC Health. So I'm here today covering for Dr. Patrick Colley, who had a conflict. And so I'm very excited to be able to update you today on our freestanding emergency department and our medical office building. Specifically, I'm going to give you an update on the project and let you know that we are still firmly committed to providing 24/7, 365 emergency services to the Sea Islands community. And so as a reminder, we have moved the location to across Seabrook Road to Sea Fields. And so we had an issue with the original parcel of land, so we had to move that. Also as a reminder that the previous site was problematic, and in December of 22, we started looking around for other options and began due diligence on the current property. Once everything was deemed okay, we started working with the Kiowa partners. And we continue to work closely with Kiowa partners on the land acquisition, and we thank them for their donation of the land and for their leadership. They've been wonderful partners for us. So here's the good news. The good news is the services we'll provide will stay the same. So a freestanding emergency department. So if you think about that, what you have connectivity to, we'll have a helipad, we'll have a helicopter access, and it gives us immediate access from Kiowa to our level 1 trauma centers, both for children and for adults. And so if you think about when timing's of the essence, if you're having a myocardial infarction or heart attack, and you don't want to damage a lot of tissue in and around the heart, we need to get you to an emergency department as soon as possible. So instead of going by ambulance from Kiowa, or at times in the back of a helicopter, we can treat you here. Same thing with trauma. Timing's of the essence. Stroke care, timing's of the essence. We'll be able to provide care to you or your loved ones here locally, and we're very excited about that. We'll also have a traditional medical office building with various specialties that will serve the needs of the town of Kiowa. And I get a lot of questions about what specialties we're going to put there, and I said, well, that depends on the demand. If there's a demand for services, say cardiology, et cetera, we'll make sure that we provide cardiology here close to home. Again, complete connectivity with MUSC Health in Charleston. So where are we at this point in time? I'll list a few of the things that we're working through. Still working through our ARB approvals. Everything's submitted, and we should be fine there. We do have some encroachment concerns and around the bike path that we're working through, not post-construction, but during construction. So the team has rallied around this issue, and we will find a way to make sure that we mitigate any potential impact to residents who enjoy that bike trail. And the Town of Kiowa permit, we're on track with permitting, and so that's going well as well. Signage, we will need some help, and we talked to numerous people about this. So the new parcel of land, the building will set back, and so that's a little bit problematic for an emergency department. We need to let people know that we're there. So your traditional monument signage may not play well, so we'll work with the town and with various designated officials to see what we can do to make sure everybody knows, visitors, people who live here, that we have an emergency department right here in close proximity. Nothing worse than having signage that does not indicate or is not visible enough, and people are trying to drive around and find that emergency department. And then OCR permit, we submitted our OCR permit. That would give us approximately 6 months before we can start building. I'm hopeful, and I'm pushing the team pretty hard, that you'll see us start moving dirt, say, in the month of June. Our goal is to have a topping out ceremony in the fall of 2024, and we are very excited that we think that we'll be in there late 2025. And again, we're here to serve you. We've been asked to come into the community. Very, very proud to partner with the town of Kiowa. And with that stated, I'll open it up for any questions anyone may have.
Any questions?
A couple, if I might, Mr. Chairman. Two. One, with regard to the size of the facility
Yes.
now as compared to when it was across the street, and the breakdown between kind of the emergency center facilities as well as the office building component. That's the first one. And then the second one, you said you hope to move dirt in June. That does presuppose, obviously, all the permits are granted.
Yes, sir.
And there had been an issue, outstanding issue unresolved with the town of Seabrook Island regarding access off of Seabrook Island Road. Has that been addressed?
We're still working through that, and I actually presented to their town council as well. Went very, very well. Had a great dialogue with the mayor, who actually pledged to work with us in and around those issues. So as far as the size of the building, if I may, on your first question, so great question, by the way. So we were coming in, this is both for the medical office building and for the freestanding emergency department. Call it just over 22,000 square feet initially. Right now we're sitting at, call it about 13,000 square feet. So does that take any of the operational functionality away from the freestanding emergency department? Unequivocally, I will tell you, no, it does not. So it's still a full-service emergency department. What we did do, though, is we contracted the size of the medical office building, and so the cost of construction has gone up significantly. And so what we need to do is we need to learn how to operate differently in healthcare. And so nothing makes me, I was going to say irritated, but it's probably too strong. There's a challenge that we have with our buildings in that generally they run from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. That's the old paradigm. To pay for the space and the escalating cost of healthcare services, what we think we can do is actually run it a little bit differently. And so much like a timeshare condominium, if I have a cardiologist there from 8 to noon, then I have primary care there from noon to 4. And then if we go into the evening hours, which a lot of people that work prefer, I think we can better serve the community in a smaller footprint that is more cost effective for us without diluting or not providing the services that the town would require.
Well, I guess if I could follow up, you said much of the shrinkage has been out of the office component.
That's correct.
So how much is going to be devoted? Because one of the issues that had come up in the context of discussions regarding other potential medical facilities in the area was access to primary care physicians and specialists and others. And I think there had been the expectation, I think this is news to me,
Yeah.
that, and
Yes.
maybe to others, that there's been a significant shrinking in the office component.
Yep. Well, remember, we had to change the parcel of land, and on that parcel of land, it dramatically limited the size of the building that we could actually put forth. And so, again, the good news is, from my perspective, is we will not be limiting the specialties that we'll be providing here locally. We will not. And so, again, think about it differently. Instead of that traditional 8 to 5, perhaps we go into the evening, perhaps we go into the weekends on Saturdays, et cetera, which we're currently experimenting with orthopedics and some other specialties at MUSC Health. So the good news is we'll still have all the services that we need here locally, and we were able to make it fit within that new parcel of land. just a little bit smaller.
I'm curious whether you've had any conversations, and if you haven't, it might suggest it, with Riverstone, the developer of Andel West, about potentially making up some of that gap on the Andel West property.
Yep. I have not yet, but that has come up, and so potentially that will be a dialogue we have moving forward. But I still think, again, that we'll be able to provide all the services that are needed here locally, even in a smaller footprint. And really what this is going to do for us operationally is actually serve as a new paradigm on the way that we build future clinics. And so it's out of necessity based on the size of the parcel of land that we're able to acquire. But I really think it's going to pave the way for operating differently in the future, not just in Kiowa, but throughout the state.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I would assume that, based on demand, you would, for example,
Yes, sir.
consider Andel West based on how the community accepts your
Yes, sir.
your
And
services.
what we're thinking through is, again, if there's a demand for any specific specialty, we'll make sure it's here. If the demand is lower, there's only 2 telehealth centers of excellence nationally. We're one of them. And so we have the ability to connect to Charleston if there's not a demand to have a provider here, say, for a 4-hour slot.
So my key question, and you touched on it a little bit, when it comes to, okay, what type of doctor's offices are in the building, because
Yes.
this is the key question I get from everybody. I think everybody is well aware of the emergency capabilities that you also described again, but everybody is very curious and interested to learn more about what exactly the types of regular medical and health services will be in the building. So by now, you're moving dirt, as you said in June, by now you should start to really know what professions will be there.
No, absolutely. And so primarily what we determined was needed within the community initially was obviously emergency services. So we'll have board-certified emergency room physicians in the freestanding emergency department. Now, adjacent to that, we're looking at VIP services, we're looking at primary care services, we're looking at cardiology, looking at some orthopedic presence, and then still looking at what other services where there's going to be a demand. And the beautiful thing about what we do is that if the primary care providers, that gatekeeper for those referrals for those specialties, we'll quickly be able to determine that, oh my gosh, you know what we need here locally? We need urology. And so we'll be able to pull that in based on that demand. And so, but you can see us coming out of the gate with, again, MD VIP, primary care, orthopedics, cardiology.
So that's already decided.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So have you studied, a lot of our residents go to MUSC, I would assume, or to Roper, but let's say MUSC. So you should have a lot of data
Well,
about
we've done
people
a-
living on
Yes, sir.
Kiowa, what services they actually use in
Yes,
the
sir.
MUSC buildings in
and
West
that's what-
Ashley or Charleston or Mount
That's what
Pleasant.
drove the cardiology discussion, was doing that zip code analysis with our goal of being able to provide the same great care that we provide in Charleston locally and not having to have people commute to downtown. It's getting more and more difficult to get to the peninsula, getting more and more difficult to find parking. If we can provide that same great care here locally, that's what we're going to do.
So when do you think you will be able to give us a firm answer on this by saying, okay, these are the confirmed,
Yep.
specialists that will be
I
in the
can
building?
I can give you that today. So again, we're going primary care, we're doing MD VIP, we're going to do some orthopedics, we're going to do cardiology, and then we're going to take another hard look at a newer data set versus our historical data set, saying, are we missing anything? Are there other specialties that we need to confirm and put in that building as well?
Very good.
And will your MD VIP be a concierge service?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it will. That was one of the things we were asked to provide, and so that's something we plan on putting within the building.
Will that be an internal medicine specialist?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any more questions from council?
Good questions.
Any more questions from the audience? No? Okay. Mr. Crawford,
All right.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much
You
for
guys are
coming.
wonderful.
We
Thank
really
you so much.
appreciate that. Thank you. All right, moving on in the agenda, we have citizen comments. So if anyone wants to provide any comments to the agenda items, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Anybody? No? Okay. Moving on to old business, review and recommendation to Town Council for the approval of the revised proposal from EAS Professionals for Beachwalker Drive, Kiowa Island Parkway Consulting, Engineering and Inspection Services. Brian, I assume that falls into your category. There you go.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So as you all know, at the last Ways and Means meeting, I brought a recommendation for CE&I services for the intersection project at Beachwalker Drive and Kiowa Island Parkway. If you recall, there was one bidder for these services, and they gave us a bid of $55,750 for those services. It was requested that I go back to them and talk about their price. It seemed to be a little bit high given the scope of the work. So I did talk to EAS professionals, and they agreed to offer a not to exceed price of $40,000 for this work for the same scope as was described in the original RFP. So, and on top of that too, we did reach out to a couple other firms that did not either have the staff or the time to give us a bid for this project. So we are looking at the sole bid from EAS Professionals, again, not to exceed $40,000, which is much closer to the 20% as I think we're hoping to get. And so today, town staff is requests that the Ways and Means Committee recommend to Town Council approving this bid for CE&I services from EAS Professionals.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have some comments or questions. So the value of this new contract is within industry standard, construction industry standard, so I'm more comfortable with that. But I'm just surprised that Kimley Horn doesn't have the staff to perform this work. I understand your note in your memo says they don't do material testing. Usually engineering firms send out the testing component to other material testing laboratories to come in and perform that. And I'm just asking if Kimley Horn, that they have to understand that would have to be subbed out to somebody else. We were talking about on-site inspection work that would be performed by Kimley Horn. So it would be somebody that would be doing slump testing on site. I mean, that's a basic graduate engineer from engineering school, as well as compaction testing, which again is graduate engineering firm basics. So are they missing the boat as to what we're looking for them to do, or is it they just don't want to do it?
No, sir. From my understanding from talking with Dylan, they have other branches that are capable of doing that material testing, but not here in Charleston. I believe that's what he explained to us. But again, I mean, it came down to they didn't have the staff at their firm here that was able to do material testing.
Okay, all right. I just
for one
wanted to
reason or
follow
the
up.
other.
All right, thank you.
Any more question, Russ?
No, thank
So
you.
how much money have we saved now?
About 15. Well, let's assume that it's going to be $40,000. It came down 15 and a half.
All right. Russ, special thank you for you. You saved us a lot of money. Thank you.
Tons, 15,000.
Okay. Are we all in favor? Say yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Brian. All right, to new business, review and recommendation to the Town Council for the approval of the fiscal year 2024-25 charitable grants funding amounts. So we all received this big folder with all the applications. We can do it two ways. We can either, go through each individual case and decide, or we can decide it in a bunch.
Yeah, and normally, you guys can also have a third option. How we normally do it is that staff goes out, they do, and they meet with all the proposed grantees. They then provide a presentation to you all, and then they have a staff recommendation that you see in your layout. So if you would like for staff to go through their recommendations, they are ready and able to do that. If you're wanting to go a different route, just let us know how you would like to proceed, but normally we do a presentation.
When can I ask a question? Do I have to have a motion first?
Yes.
Yeah,
Maybe
go
we
ahead
should go
and do
forward with the
your
motion. Can I have a
motion.
motion, please, to approve what is recommended to us by staff?
So moved.
Any discussion?
My discussion is overarching to all of these grants that we're looking at. The guidelines for the town that shows up in tab 2 of our book specifically state that we have to have one of these 3 elements in order to be considered. One's related to hunger, another is related to housing, and another is related to health. I'm only bringing that up for the council because there were a couple of applicants here that I didn't feel fell within one of those 3 categories. Now, they're all great charities, and I would love to contribute to them, but I just wanted to bring up, unless we are allowed to go outside of these parameters, I guess we have to stick within these 3, either hunger, housing, or health.
Yes. Well, we had that discussion last year, right, about this. And then we revised our guideline. John Moffett and I did that, I believe, and we all approved that. So, and at the time, we had discussions about additional topics.
Yes.
One was, for example, if I remember correctly, all decided to really stick with these 3H.
Okay.
That's correct.
And I think that's what we should do.
Right, I just wanted to remind the council of that then, I guess.
Okay. And then however you want to proceed, so we can go through, each staff can go through their, again, presentation. You guys, after each staff presentation, you can discuss, or you can wait till they're all done and then have discussion, take everything collectively and have one
I would
discussion.
recommend that we have 3 packages of teams of 2, I believe, that went through this. So maybe we give Dan the chance to go through this, through his package, and then
Yep.
we discuss and debate and decide, and
Yeah,
then
that
we
would be
do the
great.
second and the third. I think that's the most effective.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay? Daniel?
Thank you. So staff will give a brief description of each charity along with a recommendation amount. Team 1 was Petra and I. Our So our total 2024 contribution request was for $208,813, and we had a total of 18 applicants. Total funds that can be awarded is a total of $200,000, and our total staff recommendation is $198,813. So our first charity is Amore Healing Kitchens. Their request was for $6,600, and staff's recommendation was for the full amount. This program provides home-cooked nutritional meals to those undergoing cancer treatment or other health issues that do not have the time, energy, or funds to cook for themselves. Meals are prepped and cooked on a weekly basis with the help of teen volunteers and chefs, which are then delivered to around 400 clients across the Charleston area, 32 of which are from Johns Island and Wadmalaw. Each meal consists of 4 nutritious meals, a snack, a dessert menu, nutrition newsletter, and a bouquet of flowers. Our next charity is Backpack Buddies Seabrook Island. This is a reoccurring recipient. Their request was for $5,000, and staff recommends the full amount. This program provides nutritional food and snacks for children on the weekends and school holidays so that they do not go hungry and come to school ready to learn. Food is purchased and prepped by volunteers each week during the school year. The food is then delivered to Mount Zion Elementary and distributed to students in need as determined by various representatives, as well as St. John's High School, which maintains a food pantry and to-go bags for those students in need. Next organization is Bear Island Free Medical Clinic. They are a recurring recipient. Their request was for $30,000, and staff recommends the full amount of $30,000. This program provides primary and specialty medical care to low-income, uninsured adults who live and work across the Barrier Islands. The clinic provides free primary care, screenings, vaccinations, prescriptions, labs and imaging, and is staffed by over 140 highly skilled volunteers. They have been able to provide over 63,000 free patient visits since the opening of 2008. Our next organization is Bridges of Hope. They are also a recurring recipient. Their request was for $2,500, and staff recommends the full $2,500. This organization, this organization collaborates with Charleston Area Therapeutic Writing, which offers therapy as grief support, which helps over 40 local children learn, connect, heal, and grow after the death of a loved one. Their program offers 4-hour sessions at the stables, a healthy meal, an opening circle, barn stall and grooming time, writing time, crafts, as well as a closing circle. The funding will directly support 20 youths from Johns and Wadmalaw Island. The next organization is Camp High Hopes. This is a new applicant. Their request was for $10,000, and staff recommends the full $10,000. This program offers an affordable 6-week summer camp on Johns Island. The program teaches campers broad spectrums of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematical skills during their summer break. In addition, the students go on field trips that are historical, cultural, educational, and fun-filled. This program primarily serves students attending elementary schools on Johns and Wadmalaw Island. That's it. Questions?
Wasn't there one more for you?
There is one more.
There's one more for
In
you.
your,
Oh, yes, my apologies. So last but not least, we have Charleston Area Senior Citizens. This is a recurring recipient. Their request was for $12,239, and staff recommends the full amount of $12,239. This is a Meals on Wheels program, which serves about 600 to 700 meals a day on average to homebound seniors, providing a hot lunch meal and a daily welfare check, which allows seniors to support their desire to remain in the home and stay independent as long as they can. The funding request is to cover raw food costs for 29 clients on Johns Island and Wadmalaw for 6 months. That's it.
Okay, Daniel, we had a motion already, so we can discuss. Any questions to,
I do have one.
I do too.
okay, I have two.
One of the limitations in our outline of what how we're supposed to evaluate these grant applicants, it says we may not use these grant proceeds for religious instructions or proselytizing. And I only bring up the mission statement for Camp High Hopes that was provided to us. Their description of what the project overview is great, and I think that part works within our grant guidelines. But their mission statement says It includes to make disciples of Christ. And gosh, I hope I don't give everybody the wrong idea. It's not that I'm against that part. I'm only basing it on what our guidelines say, that we're not supposed to be granting money to an organization that is potentially religious mission of that organization. So there is a conflict here, and I would love to be able to get that removed or addressed or somehow. It's just that it's an internal conflict with our guidelines. And that's given me cause to pause. And perhaps the organization can speak to say that's not what they're spending. I know that's not what they're spending the money on, but I'm bringing that up to the council. It's a conflict of how we're supposed to be judging these grant applicants. So I'd like.
I have the same issue, and we had that same discussion last year, right, among us about that. So, Daniel, can you address that?
And
I'm sure you
one
looked
other
at that.
aspect of that application, because I had also concerns, share the issues that Councilmember Berner raised, but also it stated the primary purpose of the camp itself is education, which, however laudable, is not consistent with our three criteria: housing, hunger, and health. So for both of those reasons, I had flagged this particular one as well.
Yeah, and I'd love to get this corrected, but anyway, I felt compelled that it's our duty to bring that conflict up to the public.
Yeah, and my issue revolves around the same applicant. And again, laudable educational goals, especially with respect to STEM, but out of sync with our charter.
Did you take into consideration that the application was late, submitted late? I know it's only Monday instead of the Friday before, but it was in the afternoon, so everybody else stick to the deadline except for this. Was that an issue in your discussions?
I do not believe so.
Should that be an issue, or?
I don't think they were they late?
Well, it's stated on,
Yeah, it's dated January
on the
15th.
paper here.
Okay, that's probably because they brought it in and Julie has to log stuff. So it may have been that it got logged the next day, but
The
No,
application was
it
not.
was logged on Monday instead of Friday at 3:09 p.m.
I can show you the email where it was submitted to me by email
Okay.
also.
The application was not
That
late.
could
So
be
that's-
that
that's fine.
they
The
submitted
application
by
was
So
not
that's not
email
an
late.
issue.
and-
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay.
Just want to make sure.
Application was not late. Is there a representative here from
Camp High Hopes?
Camp High Hopes?
Could you help us addressing the issues by please stepping to the podium?
And
If you
then just state your
can.
name for the record, please, and who you represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Hill, and I am representing Camp High Hope. We have 3 other representatives here as well. As far as the mission, that mission is a part, that's our church mission. Camp High Hope is an outreach ministry of our church, but we are not, our camp is not considered a religious organization.
So could you explain or help us to better understand what you're educating during this camp? What is your focus?
Our focus is reading and math. And we also offer STEM activities as well. So as you are aware, when you look at the South Carolina report cards, there are deficiencies, especially with reading and math.
Math,
And they lose a lot of information when they're basically not engaged during the summer. So this is an affordable camp because we only charge like $25 registration fee. We charge $50 weekly, and we give a discount for 2 or more children. So the focus is to keep kids engaged and learning throughout the summer.
But focused on these 2 topics.
reading and
Reading and
math,
math.
as well as STEM activities. So
What,
STEM is
I apologize for
science.
my ignorance. I don't know what STEM is, so.
STEM is science, it is technology, it's engineering, it's arts and crafts, and it's math as
Okay,
well.
got it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you also for being here today. Thank you. All right. Russ, Brad, Madeline, has that helped you with your concerns? Are you still,
I mean, it strikes me as a laudable initiative and otherwise would be fully worthy of support. Education, and particularly focused on STEM, I think is critically important. The issue I have is it simply does not fit in with any of our criteria.
yeah, the 3 H's?
And perhaps rewriting your mission so that in future submission, there's a clear delineation between the church mission and the camp mission. That might be helpful, but at this time, it's too much of a conflict for me.
And it may be going forward, we may want to think about revising the 3 H's, but as of right now, we have criteria, and I think we need to abide by those.
What I personally felt, she actually cleared it up in my mind. She indicated that the mission statement was for the mission statement of the church, not the mission of this particular grant. I thought she drew that line in the sand, and it made me comfortable. So I am actually okay with it, and I thought her description explained that it was related to all educational
And especially, you know, to add to this, Russ, I felt the same way, so thank you for your explanations. I think it's a very important task, especially as we all know that in this country we have a lot of kids that are falling short in their educational performance, especially when it comes to reading and math. So I think the purpose, the focus of the camp is great. I was very intrigued by it when I was reading it. I can look over the Christian part, you know,
Yes.
based on the explanations. I'm okay with that. Also because this is a first-time applicant, right? And we had these discussions before, but, you know, it's a learning process. That's okay. But I would be willing to buy into the clear explanation here this morning that there's a separation between the mission of the church and the mission for the camp. The only remaining question here really is, how do we deal with our 3 H's versus education? So that's the only.
Mr. Chair, one of the questions I may have, and Daniel may be able to answer this, or maybe Ms. Hill, that when they put together their application and understanding the 3 H's, was there in your application process, did you feel like what you're doing falls in one of those 3 categories and maybe we're missing something? But, yeah, speak up with me.
I'm Laurel Healy, and I serve on the committee also, and I am a previous K-12 educator. So of course, the educational interest, just from a learning perspective, is very important to me. But also, just like we heard with Backpack Buddies, that program lasts during the school year. And so a lot of our children don't have the same food options during the summer. And so while they're at camp, they are served breakfast, lunch, and snack. Many of those meals are made by homemade from many of our volunteers. So we do feel like we are fulfilling their nutritional needs during the 6 weeks that they're with us. And we also feel like some of these children would not be in significantly supervised situations at home. And when they're with us, they are going on field trips, they're having experiences they've never had in a safe and healthy and nurturing environment. So those are some things that we probably didn't explain well in our application, but are definitely part of the discussions the committee's had and the purpose of the camp. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.
Brad?
Clarification is helpful to note that there is a nutritional element to this. Again, I think it's a laudable program and supportable, and I'm not unwilling to support it, given that clarification and its general importance. I would have some continuing concern or reservation, given the fact that there might have been other organizations that had an educational focus that might have applied for grants, but did not do so because of our clearly stated goals. And I think we need to kind of emphasize that whatever we do with regard to this application, I think we need to emphasize that in the review process, the application review process going forward.
That's a fair point.
Fair point, yeah. All right, I have another question. Madeline, I'm sorry?
No, I'm fine.
So I have another question as it relates to the Charleston Area Senior Citizen Services, number 9. So when I was reading through their application, it was not 100% clear to me that our funds would be solely used for Johns Island and Watmalaw Island, which is very clearly stated. So could Dan or Petra clarify this for us, please? Or if somebody from that organization is here today, how you, please.
My name's Donna Cook. I'm the Executive Director for Charleston Area Seniors. And yes, the grant is specifically written just to cover the clients that we have on the islands. So Charleston County holds a very large waiting list of about 200 people for home-delivered meals. And the funding that we receive from agencies like you guys allows us to pull that individual from that waiting list and serve them right away. They don't have to wait like other people in Charleston County do. So it's very specific to residents of this area.
So you clearly can state that the money we would give to your organization will only be used for citizens on Johns Island and Watmalaw Island?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. All right, any more questions to this block, tab 4 to 9?
Not from me.
I'm good.
Okay, are we all in favor?
I am. Well, I believe we are.
Are we? Say yeah.
I
Aye.
would vote in favor of these
Okay,
applications.
me too. So the first 6 are approved. So can I please ask, sorry, Michael to come forward for the second block, tab 10 to 15.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Michael Gamble. I just started in the wildlife department a couple months ago, if anyone who hasn't met me yet. And the other person on my team is Michael Nardelli, and we reviewed 6 charities applications, mostly related to food programs. So I'll go through them right now. So the first one, and also all these are recurring recipients that we had, that Kiowa we've given money, funding to previously. And the first one is the Charleston Area Therapeutic Riding. They requested $7,084, and staff recommends the full amount. And so therapeutic riding, they provide therapeutic riding to 8 to 12 children with disabilities in special education classroom for schools on Johns or Watmalaw Island. This organization develops student goals and a 12-week curriculum that focuses on increasing students' emotional, cognitive, and physical fitness to ultimately improve school performance and overall quality of life. And the funding that we would provide would go to one special education classroom that is on their waiting list. Next one is Feeding of the Multitude. They requested $7,000, and staff recommends the full amount. Feeding of the Multitude builds on community service work of partnering churches and helps provide for people in need for the Thanksgiving holiday. This organization serves about 6,600 people annually, and it is expected to grow this year as it has grown every year. And it now includes over 100 volunteers from 25 churches on Johns and Watmalaw Islands to make this event happen, and the funding will go directly to purchasing Thanksgiving meals. Next one is Kiowa Women's Foundation. They requested $12,000, and staff recommends the full amount. So each week during the school year, Kiowa Backpack Buddies volunteers prepare approximately 300 bags filled with 12 protein-rich, shelf-stable foods and snacks for students selected by the school's counselors. Our volunteers help purchase and deliver the bags to Angel Oak and Frierson Elementary Schools and Hot Gap Middle School, where the counselors put the bags in the students' backpacks on Fridays to sustain them over the weekends. And the funding that we would provide would go directly to purchasing food for the Backpack Buddies program, and it benefits children from families living below the poverty level. The next one is Low Country Food Bank. They requested $11,890, and staff recommends the full amount. Nearly 60% of children attending public schools on Johns and Guatemala Island qualify for free or reduced price school meals. For many children, this food they receive from the National School Lunch Program is most, if not all, the nutritious food they have to eat. And with this funding from the food bank, they'll be able to fill gaps in meals during the summer, at night, and on the weekends. With the distribution of nutritious food, including fresh produce at Hot Gap Middle School. And the funding will be used directly to purchase food that is normally cost prohibitive for food insecure families, and it will support the purchase of 22,000 pounds of nutritious food for distribution at food pantries that they are partnered with. And another one, New Webster Food Pantry, they requested $7,500, and the staff recommends the full amount. New Webster Food Pantry has a program called A Hand Up and Not a Handout. This project strives to eliminate excessive hunger on Johns and Guatemala Islands in a meaningful and dignified manner by providing food to needy and hurting people to survive and become self-efficient. They also have other programs, unlike other food banks, that promote the value of healthy nutrition, provide how-to food preparation for unfamiliar foods, distribute encouraging notes on how to save money, and share community informational flyers on employment opportunities in the community. And they've noticed people that have been in this program that no longer qualify, and they have come and volunteered for the programs as well. And so this pantry serves an average of 116 families, consisting of 468 individuals monthly. And the last one that we had was Operation Home. They requested $10,000, and the staff recommends the full amount. And the organization's mission is to help people remain in their homes by increasing safety and accessibility by facilitating critical home repairs like roofs, floors, ramps, and they also provide heating and air conditioning units. Their target demographic is low-income families within the Tri-County area that fall 50% or less of the median family income. And this Kiowa grant will directly fund critical home repairs and the heat and cold relief programs for people only on Johns Island and Guatemala Island for up to 40 families on the organization's wait list. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Any questions, concerns about this tab 10 to 15?
I do not have any.
No?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Are we all in favor
Yes.
of those six?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Just for the record, Petra, I abstain from the vote for the Low Country Food Bank because I'm actively involved with this organization in management and improving their operations, so I don't want to create a conflict of interest here. But since we have a majority anyway, it doesn't matter, but I wanted to make clear. So, Shai.
Good afternoon. So Team 3 consisted of myself and our Finance Director, Dorota Schubert, and we were assigned the last 6 applicants. First, we have Operation Sight, whose mission is to dedicate it to restoring vision and improving the lives of low-income, and underinsured Johns and/or Guatemala Island residents suffering from cataracts or urgent sight-threatening retinal disorders. Operations are completely free of charge for those who qualify. This grant will be used to restore the vision of 3 to 7 Johns and Guatemala Island residents, and staff requested the full amount of $5,000 for this organization. So next we have Our Lady of Mercy Community Outreach, who requested $30,000, and staff recommends the full amount of $30,000. A little bit about Our Lady of Mercy. Their core mission is to build equitable communities and empower community members of James, Johns, and Wadmalaw Island to reach their full potential by providing basic and emergency needs, education, employment, and health services. Staff recommends the $30,000 request. Funding is going to be used to support the direct services programs that you see listed below at the bottom. Next, we have the Sea Islands Blessing Basket. They requested $25,000 and staff recommends $25,000. A little more about them. The Sea Islands Blessings Basket is a volunteer-based community outreach food distribution program that provides nutritious, desirable food baskets once a month to low-income families on Johns and Wadmalaw Island. And the number of program enrollees has consistently increased annually each year, and the organization has felt the increase in food costs due to inflation. This grant will help fund the program for 2 months. So next we have St. James Bethel AME Church, and they have a food pantry. The food pantry serves elderly, disabled, and working low-income neighbors of Johns and Wadmalaw Island with repairs in an effort to restore their homes to secure, safe, and sanitary conditions. These repairs include all major systems of the homes, including electrical, plumbing, septic and heating, and cooling systems. In every case, the families are living below the poverty line and own their homes but otherwise cannot afford to repair them. The foundation serves all in need without regard to legal status, political affiliation, race, age, sex, or religious beliefs. We recommend them for the full amount of $5,000. This grant will be used to replace 2 roofs or 2 HVAC systems. So next, we have the Paraclete Foundation of Holy Spirit Catholic Church. Oops. My bad. I'm so sorry. I got mixed up.
What she just said was for that,
So sorry.
so if you want to go back, maybe, to this one.
Sorry about that. Sorry, the food pantry program distributes groceries to individuals on Wadmalaw and Johns Island. The program has been in existence since 1998. Groceries are distributed every second and fourth Wednesday of each month, and the program is supported by a total of 14 volunteers. This program supports 110 households annually, and this grant will be used to fund groceries for the program. Staff requests the full amount of $5,000. I already gave you the overview of Holy Spirit Catholic Church, and we recommend the full amount of $12,000. Discussion or questions?
You still have the last one, right?
Yeah, the last one.
No, I know, but can you explain
Yeah, absolutely.
Third Serve Foundation, just to make sure?
Yeah, so they serve elderly, disabled, and working low-income neighbors of Johns and Wadmalaw Island.
No, Third Serve.
That's the first,
Tab 21,
The
Third
Third
Serve
Service.
Foundation, the one that you don't
Oh,
recommend.
Because we don't recommend it, we normally don't provide a presentation on it.
Okay,
Okay. So Third Serve Foundation, so sorry for the mix-up. They're an after-school tennis program. They applied under the health of the 3 H's, more so mental health. And so Dorota and I went out to the Roy Barth Tennis Center, which is one of the locations where they teach children after school. They have a partnership with, I believe, Angel Oak and Hot Gap. So the children are bused there every Tuesday and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. They have an educational component now, a part of the program, and what you'll see in their breakdown of how they wanted to allocate the grant, it was for technology such as iPads, hotspots, materials like pencils and everything. Unfortunately, we did not recommend them because education unfortunately does not fall under our 3 H's. Very nice program. I told them to reapply in the future. It's just that breakdown was very hard for me to justify a recommendation.
yeah.
Well, I understand your comment. I have a little bit of a different view in that they do mention that the health component of its system is related to the tennis, and there is a direct correlation between health and academic success. So I wanted to bring that up to the council because certainly if there is a student exercising, there is a direct correlation to their success academically, and I'm very, very interested in promoting the academic success, so I'm bringing that up for the council.
Further comments?
I am leaning with Russ on this one. It's not just the academic link, but the fact that tennis being embraced by such a new population, and the benefits to health are undeniable. So I would like to relook at this one.
Don't believe the applicant is present today.
Just one other observation. I had a question around this one. Again, laudable. I think it's a little bit more attenuated, not as directly related to the 3 H's. The other concern I have about it, with the primary focus on sports, my recollection is in the past we have declined other sporting related, including, for example, Little League, baseball, or other things similarly, that the primary focus was on, competition and sporting activity, and we had concluded, doesn't mean we can't change our mind, that that was not as directly related to health, housing, and homelessness as were some of their applications.
You're right. But you're right. I mean, that is correct.
So my reaction was first very positive, and then I went into the details, reading through, and then I kind of, stumbled over the iPads and stuff like that. So I felt if they would have kept focusing on the sport and the health component of it, I think it would have been easier. With the application, and that's what I think we need to look at, being for, electronic equipment, I think it's a little off.
Right, but perhaps they could redirect their application next year, refocus it.
Yes, and we made sure to relay that information to them.
So, okay, so in this case, we stay with the recommendation of staff, okay?
Yes.
Any other comments to the other 5?
I don't have any.
No.
From tab 16 to 20? Okay, so can I please, I think we need to change the motion slightly to follow staff's recommendation, or are we still?
No, because you guys haven't made any changes to staff recommendation.
Okay.
So it's just a
So-
regular motion.
Everybody in favor to stay with the staff recommendation?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Maybe one last comment. I think we all live in a very privileged community. And both as citizens as well as a town, we are able to contribute to the neighboring communities. And I think this is a very honorable cause and activity. And I think all of us who are driving across Johns Island at least once a week, I think can experience that we live in an area where also a lot of less fortunate people live. So I think it's a great task for us to do this as a town. I know it's unusual, but I think it's a great cause, and hopefully it helps. Thank you.
And I just, Mr. Chairman, want to commend the staff for their efforts in reviewing the applications, meeting with the applicants, in some cases actually going on site to visit the facilities and the services and seeing them in action. And that gives me a lot more confidence and comfort in entertaining these recommendations.
Yes, okay, so we're good to move on to the second part of new business. B, review and recommendation to the town council for the approval of solid waste fees.
And Mr. Chair,
The Rota, I
we
believe.
typically give people about a 1 or 2 minutes, because we typically have a mad exodus at this point. So we.
Thank you very much for coming all. Thank you.
So we discussed it last week, last month. However, at that point was tabled. My request was tabled, and I was asked to look at some other options. So just quickly, as you recall, we signed our solid waste collection contract with a new company, hence the increase in the pricing. What traditionally the town has done, had this approach that the customers who subscribe to curbside pay zero cost. They get this benefit. And for any additional service, such as 2 times a week or backdoor, we apply half of that cost of the curbside service. Half of it was applied to those other services. So I was asked to look at some other options and mainly to apply the same benefit of curbside service to all the services. And by doing that, I'm proposing now a new approach that the amount of $288, which is the cost of curbside for garbage, recycle, and yard debris, will be applied to all the services. So the curbside will pay zero, continue receiving this benefit for no cost, but other services will be reduced by that amount. However, because there is an element of some work, billing, mailing, postage involved, this amount will be reduced for $25 admin fee or billing fee. So with that change, or in the approach, the town will be contributing to the garbage collection about $640,000 annually, which is an increase of $215,000, what are we doing right now? And just to mention that additionally this is just for the residential part of the collection. The rental families or the rental and businesses, they pay the full cost. The town doesn't participate in those collections. And we also collect garbage on the beach for about $100,000 annually, and there is some public solid waste station that the town also pick up the cost for $153,000.
Okay, thank you, Dorota. Can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Discussions, questions for Dorota? Just want to make sure that we understand this. Our decision would be a deviation from prior council's decision, but of course it's our decision.
Yes.
Because prior council, I think, said that everybody who uses extra services only get 50% of the benefit. And we now would move from a 50% benefit to a 100% benefit for everybody, so that they would only pay for the extra cost minus processing and administrative cost. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Russell made the motion. I didn't hear a second. Who seconded? Who made it first?
Second.
You're second? Okay, no, you made the motion
I
second.
heard
Okay,
saying
thank
that.
you.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Stephanie.
So the narrative makes sense, and I appreciate the responsiveness. I'm trying to do the math in kind of real time, and that's always a mistake. It shows the backdoor garbage collection, the proposed rate is $468. Now, if you apply the entire subsidy, the $288 to that, you would be $188, and then you would add the 25. So I'm not sure how you get to the new proposed rate of 324.
So 468, that was the first, that was the approach we had. So it's reduced by half. It's not the full rate. So the full rate is $288. That's the amount of the benefit, or what? Yes.
The base rate.
Yes.
Yeah. So in scenario A this was the full rate minus 144.
Yeah.
So that was the approach that we had before in the first column in
So
scenario
if you take
A.
now 468 minus 50% of the base benefit, which is 288, so it's 144, plus $25 for processing fee, you should end up with $349.
And that's where I think the disconnect is. I thought what was going to happen was everybody would get, we were no longer going to do just the 50%.
That's correct.
That
But
everybody.
That's what I just explained.
Yes.
So
But
the 468, if you want to look at the second row,
Yeah.
under scenario 8, my understanding was that the 468 already includes a 50% reduction from true cost.
So the actual proposed rate was $144 more.
Right. Well,
That's
not the
correct.
actually proposed, but the factual rate.
But the actual cost that the Trident is charging us is different for every type
I
of
just want to
service.
clarify, so it was actually $600, over
That's correct.
$600 was the actual.
612.
Okay,
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
So we take 50% off, the additional 50% off,
Yes.
adding $25 for processing, that should
Okay.
end up with a
Okay, sorry.
$349, which means that a backdoor service home has the same benefit of $288,
Okay.
except for the 25
Yes.
administrative charging, billing,
And
following
fine.
up kind of
The
administrative
only thing,
costs.
we don't need to do it, but kind of going forward, this comes up, it might be the current rate versus their new, before you get to scenario A and scenario B, what the actual.
Cost, actual
Yeah,
cost that we are being,
Yeah.
I had it in the other, and I just tried to make that spreadsheet smaller, or
Okay.
not that many numbers, and so any other questions?
Given that explanation, thank you.
So I applaud you trying to make the spreadsheet smaller, but in so doing, you made this totally incomprehensible to me. So I think if it's getting communicated out to the public, clarity would be
Oh, yeah.
appreciated. I don't, just visually here,
Sure.
there doesn't appear to be any benefit to me, nor do I understand the rates that change, the advantages, the additional cost or the reduced cost to the individual property owner.
So once approved by the town council today, we'll start communicating, and I exclude all the different scenarios. There will be just only one rate, a proposed rate, or approved rate. So there will be less information, and then we'll explain, the increase in the cost for the town, hence that increase. But so everyone will see that it's getting the same benefit of $288.
That'll be helpful.
Yeah, I think a communication around all this is going to be critically important, and
Yes.
to make the two messages, costs are going up for the town and for residents. The amount of subsidy the town is providing to residents is also going up to offset a significant amount of those increased costs.
Everybody gets the same subsidy.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Erin and I talked about this already, so. Okay,
All right.
very good.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Nope.
Are we all in favor? Please say yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is approved. Moving on to topic number C, review and recommendation to the town council for the approval of the Airmed Care Network contract renewal, which I believe we do every year.
Right.
Do we have a representative from the firm here, or are
No,
we?
they haven't
Okay.
come in a while. This has been a contract the town now has probably had in place since, it looks like, 2016. It is a service, a benefit that we offer the community through Airmed Care. This comes as a recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to renew this contract that we have. Because we've been able to renew this every year, we're essentially grandfathered in under what's called an old municipal contract. It's just a service that is only essentially activated if used by residents.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Ways and Means Committee recommend to council the approval of this agreement.
Okay,
Second?
okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I agree. I remember talking about this last year, and it
Yeah.
seems to be the exact same situation where the cost is really insignificant.
It is
Really
a-
insignificant.
But
may-
the service is.
Even if
is-
nobody utilizes it, it's a pretty low-cost insurance policy. It's
But
better
even
lower-cost insurance
even
policy.
if our citizens have a case where they need to be airlifted, this is, of great benefit. I would
Tremendous.
also, encourage everybody to look at the option to become a member of the organization for either $55 or $45 a year, which gives you the same service countrywide.
Right.
At the moment, it's only here from Kiowa, but, and I think Charleston County, but if you are in Connecticut and need an airlift with this additional small amount of membership, you get that same service also elsewhere. So I would also support.
I had no idea.
That's why I'm saying it. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't know about that, and I wanted to point that out because we're all, pretty active. We are traveling. Some of us might have even a second home somewhere. With this additional membership, you get a coverage really nationwide.
Might be helpful to communicate how.
We can
how
push
to
it
do
out. We've
that.
pushed this out a number of times.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
year,
Yes.
typically
Sorry.
do.
And
Oh, no, no,
yes.
no.
Oblivious.
But we'll make sure that we push this out again. But we do, once we push it out, we do get some people that give us a call and we direct them to Airmed Care.
Yes.
You
For
do
that
push
additional
it
cost.
out. I see it all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, we do.
It's overlooked for
All right.
whatever
Are we all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's approved. Moving on to topic number D, review and recommendation to the Town Council for the approval of the proposal for the installation of the electric vehicle charging stations. Now, while Michael is walking here to the podium, I want to make two comments. So first, this is one of the many now outcomes from the Kiowa Goes Green initiative. And Michael in particular here, also together with Brian, have worked a lot on this topic in particular. This is quite a complex thing to study and analyze and then make recommendations, because there are a lot of vendors, there are a lot of service companies, there are a lot of installation companies. There's a lot to consider, but Michael did an incredible effort to dive deep into, so he became the biggest EV charging station expert on the island, which I greatly appreciate. For my council members to understand, we have not yet decided about the last piece of this program, means how, not so much how we are charging for somebody that uses the station, because the station, as Michael will explain, also is open for public use. We have not yet decided about the amount to be charged. We have not yet decided about potentially different amounts to charge between property owners and guests and visitors or people from Johns Island. We have not decided yet about operation hours, because, for example, Russia is concerned about safety topics, etc. That was all on the agenda for the retreat, and now that we are moving the retreat to May, I just don't want to lose time, because I was hoping to have this all installed before July 4th, when we have a lot of people on the island that want to charge. So please disregard this topic. This will be on the agenda of the retreat for us to discuss and decide. Now it's really just about the decision related to purchasing the equipment that you see back there in the room and the installation. Michael, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the Ways and Means Committee. So I'm excited to introduce this project to you. It's been in the works for over a year now. It's been talked about for years prior to that. Just a little bit of background. Municipalities across the country have been installing electric vehicle charging stations at their municipal centers for their fleet, employees, and constituents to utilize. This project stems from the, as Mr. Chairman says, Kiowa Goes Green initiative, mission to promote and to provide the infrastructure to continue to electrify our fleet. The test case for other island entities to consider electric vehicles and charging stations, and the first piece of infrastructure to satisfy the need of the community and visitors to charge, as the closest charging stations are West Ashley. And so we took a survey in 2023, and the results conveyed the need for public chargers and the desire to have them here, and for the fact that the town owns and operates and controls this property. The location already has the existing infrastructure we need, with the correct transformer conveniently located next to the area and emergency generator power directly across from that. We also point blank need additional parking for our fleet, staff, growing staff, and events. And for the product, it's been quite a difficult market to navigate through, but actually dealing with Blink EV charging has been solidified it in many different reasons. One of those that Blink checked off every box in terms of technology, products, services, and software. Postal Service for EV chargers, which helped solidify their place in the market. Intel's ideal products for the Series 7 80 amp chargers, which is the highest level 2 chargers that they make. And that'll come with pedestals and cable management. And then in picking an installer, we wanted to keep the work local because part of this piece would have a maintenance contract to help guarantee uptime. You hear horror stories about California, inverters elsewhere, where you go to them and they're not working. We're definitely going to avoid that with Chris here. And so the local electrical installment companies were based off their reputation from the city of Charleston, town of Mount Pleasant, and other trust organizations. And they were Loop Electric, Apex Solar, and Super Green Solutions. And so we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting here with on-site Berkeley Electric and an engineer from Cummings. And we talked about the RFP, and from that meeting, we received one single bid from Apex Solar Tech LLC. Since we are required to have at least 3 bids for such products, town staff put the project up for bid, which was featured on our website and posted in the postal carrier for 2 weeks. There result additional bids from Carrot Contracting and Georgia Civil. And the bids came back as follows. Carrot Contracting for $286,000 and change. North Civil, Georgia is $127,000 and change. And Apex Solar Tech for $88,590. And we also, I asked Blink directly, because they're a Source World approved vendor, for a turnkey quote, which they would provide everything, including install, for $54,000. However, that quote came back with some missing features on it, like the ATS system for backup, and they would be contracting Super Green Solutions of Charleston for the installation work. And so, action requested is that town staff is requesting town council to authorize the purchase for the Ways and Means Committee to purchase 2 dual port Blink Series 7 Plus chargers for $14,300. Town staff also recommends Apex Solar Tech for the installation work for $88,590. And this project has been budgeted for this fiscal year and will come out of the general fund. Berkeley Electric Cooperative has issued the town of Kiowa Island for a grant fund for $25,000 in support of this project. Subtracting the grant fund from chargers and installation costs comes to a total of $77,890. And lead time on the install is about a month. And as Michael said, hoping to get it installed before the July weekend.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Michael. Can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Lots. It's not negative, though. Don't get me wrong, Michael, it's not negative. I'm just thinking big picture from, the overall usage and construction. Is the location, because I don't know the answer to this question, where we're going to put it here at Town Hall, is it above the flood elevation?
Yes,
It
I checked with
is.
Bruce.
Okay.
So Bruce and our planner, Daniel Green, was part of this subcommittee group that oversaw this project, and they both have obviously going to authorize the permits, so we can permit this project in-house. So we do not need to go to the county, and we are above flood here. So
Okay. So number 2, and I have 5 more. Is there an increase to our insurance? I just want, again, these are big picture things. Are we going to have an incremental insurance cost that we need to account for?
That's a good question. I would have to meet with Rhoda with that.
We actually insured with the state. Our premiums are really low. We pay for this building, I want to say like $8,000 only. But
Got it,
of course, we
okay.
will add it, but that wouldn't
Okay.
be a big.
All right, I know Michael had already alluded to this, but I'm just going to get these other things out there for the record. Is this only going to be for Kiowa residents? I know that's an item to be discussed.
Yep.
An additional cost, this is number 4, I believe was we need to add security cameras.
Yes. I've talked with our security company here, and we were already would like the idea. I know Kika has issues with security in their vehicles. I believe the catalytic converter was cut, and so this would be an ideal location for our fleet, and we would add cameras on both the garage
Great.
and the main
Okay.
building here.
All right.
And we'd also add additional lighting too. So I spoke with Berkeley Electric. We have one thing in the one electrical wire in the ground that would need to come up, and we would relocate that light that's on the far side now over to the charging.
Great, all right, so two more.
Yeah.
I know this is yet, again, another one that we haven't figured out yet, but how do we protect not just the community, but anybody using this facility? Because the proposed location is rather lonely in the back of the building.
Yeah.
We have to think about not just security, but safety.
Yeah. So Charlotte is here with Blink as well, and she's made it crystal clear that we can advertise these chargers on the network, so like all the apps, or we cannot. And so what she described to me is that we can have kind of two different billing operations where you basically invite the community to use these, and they will be charged a different rate than, let's say, contractors or whatever else, or just we can basically eliminate the publication of these chargers.
But my question is a little bit different. Everything you're saying is good, I'm glad to hear that, but given that the location is behind the building,
Yeah.
somebody out there at 10 PM at night charging up, there's no security if you get a nefarious guy going back there.
Well, that's the part that we need to discuss in
Yes.
May. Because also one aspect that falls into it is the public operating hours.
Correct.
Because at some point, we also need these two charging stations to charge our vehicles. So part of the discussion in the retreat will be, how are we going to do this best? So it could lead us just also out of pure need for our own vehicles that we only say these chargers are available between 7 in the morning and 8 at night, or 5 at night, or 6 at night, right? Because then we are using it ourselves.
Fair
So,
point.
But
just
that
wanted
is
to get it out
something
there.
that we intentionally have not yet really brought forward because we wanted to get the construction going and then use the May retreat really to do these operational
So
discussions, or have these operational
I'm all
discussions.
good with that. So my last, it's really more of a comment, well, it is a question. I don't want this to become an ongoing new operating loss to the town. So that's just a comment, because I know we haven't discussed the fee structure yet. I'm just commenting that I don't want this to become a deficit every year going forward.
I agree.
Thank you.
And if I can follow up on both of your comments, I'm supportive of this initiative as well. I had a brief conversation with Charlotte, I believe the Blink representative, and maybe it'd be useful to hear from her, because I know that we haven't made some of these very critical decisions, but I wanted to get some clarity as to the extent to which the system would enable us to make whatever decisions we wanted to. Whether we could, if we chose to do so, simply limit it to the town's vehicles and residents, or somebody with an access code that's provided from the town of Kiowa Island, or and charge obviously a different rate. The town's vehicles would use it for free. You would charge a different rate for residents. And then whether we wanted to have the option to open it up to service providers, vendors, others, and if so, could we charge at a different rate that might be sufficient to help offset the operational cost, or whether we want to restrict the service providers, vendors, and others from camping out there for all day long altogether, and then residents wouldn't be able to use it.
And I guess I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. In order for us to figure out what rate to charge, we need to know how many users there may be. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, and that kind of gets to the question is, you're right, it's almost an algorithm. I'm somewhat skeptical myself that there's going to be a high level of usage on the part of town residents, because it takes most of an hour to charge, a battery fully with a level 2 charger, I think, close to that. But on the other hand, if we're not getting a lot of usage, maybe that informs the decision as to whether we'd wanted to open it up to others that are still doing business on the island, service providers, vendors, and things like that, because we could charge more as well.
This is very complicated,
Yeah,
even though it seems straightforward, it's very complicated.
So I just, it would help us understand kind of what our ability is to set parameters and program the device or the system?
So I'm Charlotte Waters with Blink Charging. So you do have the option today to have 2 separate pricing groups.
Just two?
Just 2. In Q3, we'll have that 3rd group option. So you can have free charging for your fleet. We are integrated with WEX, which I believe is your current fleet management system, yes. So we can go ahead and integrate with that. All your fleet vehicles will automatically get access that way. For the general public, we have a few different options for billing. So you can bill based on kilowatt usage. So we would bill exactly, either matching your current utility bill for what the pricing is, or if you want to charge a little bit higher to make a little bit of money back, you can do that. You can charge per the hour, which is what we encourage for public charging, just so when a car is done charging, people are motivated to come and move their car because they're still getting billed rather than my car is done charging, I'm not getting billed anymore, I'll just leave it there. The 3rd option is time of use. So if you do have peak energy hours, or in the future, if you all get peak energy hours, you can change what's being billed during those hours of the day. Y'all spoke about setting certain hours that it's open to the public. That's very easy to set up and also very easy to change at any point. So what you all set up day 1, if you decide in 30, 60, 90 days, a couple years out, you want to adjust what's being billed or the access controls, that can always be changed as well. It takes about an hour to take effect once it's in our system.
How does the billing process work? I mean, you say public. At the outset, you're saying until the 3rd quarter, that's just one amorphous group, residents or anybody else. If it's out there and they know about it, they could drive up to the charging station.
Right.
How do they get charged or billed? They're not entering a credit card?
No, so there is the Series 8 that has the physical credit card swipe. We recommend against that because in situations such as a hurricane, if y'all are trying to evacuate and it needs to be fleet vehicles only, you can't do that on the Series 8. So with this Series 7 model, you can use a tap to pay option. They can enter their credit card information into the app and preload it, or they can call in with a 1-800 number, which EV drivers should be used to doing all of these with any other EV charging station out there. They're having to use an app or call in. So that we'll get their credit card information that way, we will bill them, and then we'll issue an ACH payment to you all quarterly for whatever is billed.
So I think we have a lot of options, okay? So the May retreat gives us a lot of room to debate. Michael will prepare different options for you guys to look at and different proposals, and then we debate and decide, okay? For now, the decision and the motion is only to approve the investment into these 2 stations, similar to this, just on a pole back here, so that it's also close to the generator, so we can use it also during emergency times for our vehicles, and the installation. Okay. The other part that also is still missing is the service portion that will also be part then of our discussion in May. Okay.
What % of the town's fleet vehicles are electric now?
Right now, we're gonna have 2 vehicles, so that's about 5%.
Yeah, one for
And
the building
what's the
department and one for the public works.
And the objective down the road, 2 years out, 5 years out, is 100%?
Never gonna be 100%.
We decided against it because of emergency situations. But at some point, maybe 30% of the fleet will be electric.
This project will help increase that number though, because it'll be backup power situation. The hesitancy of going full electric was the emergency operations that we have during post-storm and pre-storm. And so with these chargers here being tied into the generator system, that will help provide us with the ability to stretch further in the electrification of our fleet.
So I have a piggyback on your comment with respect to how much of the fleet. So I'm throwing out a question, so I'm going to use Beach Patrol as an example. There is a turnaround time for charging these vehicles. Would we have to if the Beach Patrol went 100% electric, would we have to purchase an additional vehicle because they'd be losing time at the charging station?
So to
Russ,
answer
if
your
I may,
question
that's
is,
not really a topic here for today.
well, to answer his question, Beach Patrol vehicles, because you said, well, we have to purchase them, they're not our vehicles, it's their vehicles. So
Well, that's true.
So if they get
That's true.
electric vehicles, they can get their own EV charging stations.
But in the context of your question, that we have these 2 vehicles here on the island, I think we are the only ones having electric vehicles so far. One for the building department, one now for the public works department, is also for us a pilot test, and also for the other case on the island, right? To see how it works. Especially the second vehicle will be used more on also, and based on that, you know, the different participants in the Kiowa Goes Green initiative will then judge if it's something they want to duplicate.
Why not? No, fair enough,
Right?
okay.
There are certain limitations, for example, for the beach patrol that we talked about, that is probably not the ideal use case for electric vehicles. But for example, turtle patrol vehicles, for the vehicles that the club or the sanctuary are using on the beach, if we're focusing on the beach portion of it, those could very well be potentially electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles in the future. But that's not our discussion here at the moment.
Okay.
So.
Be helpful maybe, if you have the time or if you haven't already done it, to find out how many electric vehicles there are by residents on the island?
About 230.
280, they did a
230?
survey.
Okay, and do we know how many of them have got their own charging stations, or how many potentially would use this one?
So in the survey results that we put in, we have 1,401 people that were polled, and 44% of them stated that they would prefer having a charging station additional to their own on Kiowa, other than their primary residence.
All right,
I
so
would
we know
assume-
there's demand.
Yes.
Okay.
And interesting enough, I think we didn't really expect that. The municipal center was the most preferred location, followed by Freshfields.
I would
So,
prefer this to Freshfields.
yeah, so that's basically what we are going by.
Okay.
Okay? Any more discussion?
Yes, I know that we're not solving how exactly the system is going to be used today, nor should we, but I just want to make sure that, because one last question, that the system allows us the kind of optionality. The one thing that wasn't clear, Charlotte, is how you said Q3, you could add a third billing, which I think will be potentially critically important. But how do we identify, or how would you be able to identify who gets like the resident billing rate versus a general public use billing rate? Because I think it would be important from a messaging standpoint going forward to say we've installed these chargers, residents get a certain rate, a discounted rate. If general public uses it, they pay a higher rate. How would I assume the system could do that, then how would that do?
Yes, so you would send out either a link or a QR code, that is how residents would go and sign up and have like their discount link. And once they're signed up, there is a way to go in and remove those residents. If people do leave the island, or for any reason you do need to remove someone, it's very easy to do from the system as well.
The question, though, is this the way forward? But that's for the May discussion, because today, also residents don't get a discount at the pump. So, but this is all for May.
Well,
right?
but
And we will prepare all
that's
of
true,
this, so-
but we are spending public funds,
of
yeah,
course.
on this project, yeah.
Is that what it's going to look like?
Yes. They'll be taller.
On a pole.
That has the capability to.
Yeah, so we have 2 stations with 4 cables.
And you
Oh,
will be
okay.
able to lock down one station to just fleets if you want. So in those hurricane situations, if you want to have just one lockdown, but the other one public still, that's also easy to do.
So we wanted to have that flexibility. Okay? Any more concerns, questions? Thank you, Charlotte, for coming.
Thank you.
It's very nice
Thank
of
you,
you.
Mike.
And your colleague, thank you. Okay, are we good? Can I please have a decision? So everybody in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Michael, thank you. And as I said in the beginning, really great work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to tab 6 under new business. E, review and recommendation to the town council for the approval of the proposal from Artiques for landscape enhancements on Kiowa Island Parkway. Brian, I assume? Okay.
Was there not one in, never mind.
No, I've just got this second. Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, committee. So if you all remember, April of last year, the town council approved a contract with Outdoor Spatial Design for landscaping design services for various areas of town property. One of these areas was to revisit the, we'll call it segment A of the parkway that was taken out of the design when we went back and did our big landscape enhancement in 2019-20. So we wanted to revisit that and bring that area up to the same standard that the rest of the parkway is. And that area is going to be from the roundabout basically up to the Freshfields entrance on the parkway. So Outdoor Spatial Design, they came up with their design for us and sent that over to our landscape contractor, Artiques, who was able to price out the work for that based off of their design. Their price for the construction, which included, it actually includes planting enhancements, site prep, irrigation work, the demo and off-site debris removal, freight and equipment, sod and mulch, that came out to $124,500. And it was recalled, I got in touch with Outdoor Spatial Design this morning to talk about the price, making sure that it was competitive. Two answers to that question is yes, it is a competitive price that they would certainly see fit for this project. And the other part of that was he jogged our memory. Town council had an approved budget for this area already, and this number falls within that budget that was pre-approved. So we're here asking today to move forward with that. So again, today town staff is requesting that the Ways and Means Committee recommend to the town council approving the landscape enhancement on the parkway as provided by the design from Outdoor Spatial Design and by Artiques Landscape. If this is approved, we'll fund it 70% from restricted funds and 30% from the general fund.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I have
ahead.
discussion. I just don't think we need it. I don't think the ride from the circle, I guess it's from, if I'm looking on the chart, it's from the entrance exit to the municipal center here, around the circle, down to the Freshfields entrance. I don't find that ride to be unattractive now. I'm not saying we need to do this, because I don't think it's ugly now.
Right?
The slightly different variation on that theme, and you have addressed this, you've said OSD says this is in the ballpark, but for your representation in that regard, I would have been highly skeptical in reading this, that this very small, couple hundred yard strip, which based on the materials is going to be 300 dwarf palms, which are not that expensive, and 130 additions of breeze grass, that amounts to anything close to $124,000 project, even with kind of the labors and additional sod and all of that. I struggle to understand. I don't know if we went out, I suspect we didn't go out and get any other kind of bid on this portion of it.
We just contact our maintenance contractor. And again, me not being an expert in the field, we have to trust, and not saying that we can't.
Well, remind me how much we're spending on the entire 1 mile of Beachwalker Drive enhancement.
Beachwalker Drive is in the 150 area.
150,000?
Yes, sir.
For the entire stretch of Beachwalker Drive, which is going to be kind of completely redone, and this is 124,000 for a couple of hundred yards?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, and
So-
that's as proposed.
so
The plantings are a little bit different.
I shared this with both of them prior to this meeting. I was also a little shocked about that. So I reached out to Kika, to the landscaping department, Doug Walter, that we are working with on the green initiative, just to get his expertise, but just best judgment. It's not more than that, and he also felt it's a little bit on the higher side, right? That contacting, the firm itself, if this is a competitive bid, what else would they say? The question to me more actually is if we should spend that money for these improvements in an area that is not maybe our major concern, as Russ said, and better spend that money on our leisure trail, right? I mean, we have made improvements, we fixed potholes, we cut back on vegetation so that, bikers would not hit their head, when they're biking on the leisure trail. But as we experienced during recent rain events, there is an area between the Freshfield entrance and I think it's the PGA parking entrance. There was water standing for days after recent events, which made actually people force them to go off the leisure trail onto the road opposite to traffic and then merging back on the leisure trail after that. So we could also consider that the money at the moment at least might be better spent in fixing that, although we're still investigating, is this only a drainage issue or do we have to elevate the leisure trail? But I think that would, to me at least, be a more pressing topic than spending $124,500 on a few plans.
Somewhat in
consideration.
In relation to that, and I had raised this with Stephanie and Brian, is because it's not within the scope of the Beach Walker landscape enhancement project, is that there's about a 30-yard stretch of the leisure trail from the KIRE building towards the Riverview entrance, which is a little bit overgrown coming this way. It's got a lot of roots popping up. It's crumbling a little bit. Plus, when it rains, it's underwater as well. So I agree that those might be, enhancing those issues with regard to leisure trail might be something that warrants more attention than this.
And are there any environmental benefits to these plants, or is it strictly aesthetic?
A lot of it's aesthetic. There are certainly some native plants that they would be incorporating into there, which, is obviously good for us and goes with our statement. But more aesthetic, I think, than environmental.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if it was unattractive and overgrown, I'd be all for it, but it's not. I think it's fine.
All right. So you want to table it or decline it? Where are you going with this?
Y'all have a motion on the table? So the motion to approve, so you can ask for a vote?
I know, but I first wanted to feel out where we are going with this so that we can have a new motion.
Well, I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay? So we just vote no.
No, at this point in time.
Okay.
We can always come back to it another time.
All right, so then I have to ask everybody in favor or not?
All in favor?
No?
All opposed?
All opposed?
No.
Okay, that would be the right question.
So
Thank
did you amend your motion because there's 4 of you, technically 2 of you approved this already. So if you get the other 2, you 2 say no, then it can fail. I don't need for you 2 to vote.
See, that's a protocol thing I never did understand.
We simply moved it.
Yeah,
We
we simply moved
didn't
the motion.
vote for it.
We didn't
Yeah,
vote for it.
you had a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's all.
right.
And then there's a second motion to approve.
Yes.
Then you
But
had
that is simply to bring it up for discussion.
Then you
That's not
had
to-
discussion. So now you're taking the motion. So
No, we're not changing the motion. We're just,
all in
opposing the
favor.
motion.
All in favor of the motion. There were
0.
none. There,
Opposed? 4.
oh, yeah. It is a motion to approve, and
And we decline
then
it.
I voted no on the actual motion itself.
Yeah.
All right, so, no, I have to, all right, but so I do have to ask for an educational question. So since
Okay,
I
but
was-
first for the records, we said no. Okay, good.
So
Russ?
how do we get into discussion? Because I would have voted no before we even got there. So I'm just asking, how do we get into discussion if I would vote no?
I think we would then probably have a motion for discussion instead of saying a motion for approval.
Got it.
But,
Okay.
A motion to approve is
But
not a
let's-
motion, not a motion in favor of the action itself.
okay.
Under parliamentary rules, it's
Okay.
simply, it could have failed, somebody could have moved it, and it could have failed for lack of a second.
We'll look into how we can
okay.
move forward.
Okay,
I
thanks.
will try to have my next question about, can I have a motion to discuss?
Yeah, I think that
But,
solves it all.
but
That
you,
solves it all.
but you motion to approve, then you move to discussion before you have a motion on the, I mean, whether you act on the underlying motion.
Yeah.
It did fail.
Well, I have nothing else to do, so I'm going to go read my Robert's Rules of Order book when I get home.
All right. Okay. So feel free to bring a new proposal for the leisure trails, is what I heard.
Absolutely.
All right. Brian, you're the next. So this failed,
Thank
for the
you.
record. So we are coming to the last topic of new business, F, on tab 7, review and recommendation to the town council for the truck rental for solid waste services. Brian.
Yes, sir. So as you all know, we are getting ready to enter into a contract with a new solid waste contractor, Trident. We had initially, per the terms of the existing contract with Carolina Waste, that was set to expire on July 30th, or excuse me, June 30th, and the new contractor would take over July 1 of this year. After some discussions between the two contractors and town staff, it has been agreed that the services will be taken over by Trident Waste starting May 1st. Both of the two solid waste contractors have agreed to this, and town staff has agreed to this as well. Because of that, they had initially anticipated having all of their equipment ready to go by July 1st with the original contract start date, but since we've moved that up, they are forced to rent a truck to use on the island while their third truck is being built. And so the cost of that is gonna be $12,900 for the month for them to use it. They're anticipating only needing this truck for 1 month since they were ready to get started with us in July. So we are asking today that we recommend to town council approving the cost for the truck since they are doing us a favor and starting early and needed to get this truck on the island to perform services for us.
So can I have a motion to discuss?
Yes.
So moved.
I so moved, and I second.
All right. So Brian, for me, I understand the technicalities here because of the contract timing being changed. I understand even the transportation cost of $2,000 to here and then back to whoever rents it. I think that as it relates to the cost for the truck, we are paying at least a portion of those $8,900 twice. Because when we start with them on May 1st, we start paying their rates, right? And the rates that we agreed upon a couple of months ago does include whatever kind of amortization, depreciation, et cetera, of their equipment, including trucks. So when we start on May 1st, we're already paying a certain portion. The rental fee might be higher than that portion already, so I understand that. But I think if we would approve now $8,900 for the rent itself, I think we are double paying.
And also,
A
that's
little,
the
a portion,
cost,
a portion.
that's the cost for 1 month, but there's a 2-month gap. There's,
Well, they were saying
They're
that
anticipating on having that truck ready in
June.
June 1st.
okay,
Yes,
all right,
even though they were supposed to start in July, they were gonna have it in June.
okay.
I do understand, the thought process behind that. We would already be paying them some sort of money, so I can certainly ask that question if that's.
So I would be willing to approve, but under that condition, right? That we look at, what portion of the $8,900 for the rent are we actually already paying?
Okay.
through the weekly, daily, whatever fees in the contract. So I think we don't want to further delay it because they need time to get this all set up. So I would like to bring a motion forward to approve this proposal, but with the condition that we're making sure that we are paying only the fair delta of the rental fee, of the rental cost.
I will have an email correspondence with the owner with any explanation that
Okay.
comes from that.
Right. Okay,
So
so that's
moved.
my motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Are we all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. All right, this concludes our new business. Chairman's report, I don't have anything else. Dorota, if you want to please give us your treasurer's report.
Okay, so we're going to start with the budget. Last month, we, and I don't know if I can get this on the screen, so I don't know if
Well, we have it in
But
here.
anyway, so last month, we talked about the revenues, and today we're going to talk about expenditures. So the proposed budget draft that you have in front of you, in that we are budgeting expenditures, the total expenditures of about $14.8 million. This is about 26% on 3.1 million higher when compared to the current year projections, and about 3.7 million higher compared to last fiscal year actuals. There are some big items that contribute to that increase, and I'll spend a lot more time on those and just go through no changes. So our biggest expense is the personnel cost. It does show a little over 600 increase when compared to this year, but there are a few contributors to this increase. First is we currently have 26 employees. However, there's 2 positions that were approved and in the process of hiring. So we'll have by the end of this fiscal year, we're going to have 28 full-time employees. I am asking for your approval for a new position, the 29 employee. This is going to be a revenue auditor in the finance department that will mostly concentrate on pretty much the audits compliance or for our business licenses, hospitality accommodation in the local option sales tax. This position I'm projecting that there is a lot of potential with underreported revenues, that this position should actually bring some revenue, find revenue for the town. And assuming that will be around $50,000 a year, I included the $50,000 in our revenues, just to make it a full picture. We also have a 10% increase. This is just the aggregate 10% that is in one department for salary adjustments or salary increases. And another contributor to this increase is our retirement is going up 1%, which is about $26,000, and our health insurance is going up almost 12%, and that's about $76,000. So with all those changes, increases, we are projecting a big $600,000 increase in personnel cost. Another big increase is in public safety. So this is our deputies. We are projecting $378,000 higher than current year, and this is mostly relates to the increase employment. We actually comparing last month, March, to 2023, we have increased in about 36% in working hours already, just in 1 month.
In what?
In 1 month. So
I'm sorry.
in hours spent on the island.
Hour, got it.
So our contract is for 2 deputies on the island for every shift. They never fulfill that full, contracted amount. So right now we projecting that it's gonna be fulfilled at 50%. Before there was some shifts that were only 30%. But we also, last March, or last 2023 March, we had 16 employees on the roster, and this past March we have 26. So we've seen a huge increase in recruitment and working. Hence that increase in the whole cost. The code enforcement and beach patrol is budgeted with no changes. Those contracts were re-signed recently. And supplies, there is a slight increase, but there is one item, there is a $10,000 request for cameras on the parkway. Communication just increased by 3% slightly. Waste management is a big increase, but that relates to a new contract with Trident. Insurance cost increases just 10%. Professional services are budgeted with no change, and they include the $250 for legal services, $10,000 for a town prosecutor, and $30,000 for an audit. It's same as this year. Consultants, they do show 270 increase, and there is some new items that are contributing to that change. So we are projecting $105,000 for the third-party inspector. That was approved last quarter by you, and we assuming that his assignment will be at 50%. So his total is 210, but we're assuming that he'll be utilized only at 50%. We have a $200,000 placeholder for zoning codes update. That was also approved in this current year budget. However, this project was moved to the next year, so the projections are updated for that change. $20,000 for traffic counts, $25,000 for HR services, $30,000 for actual evaluation and some miscellaneous consulting services. Just the new one, that's a new request, $20,000 for Keo Island River Bridge access design. It's a placeholder. $100,000 placeholder for GIS and shape files projects. That comes from a planning department, that request. And we just put a $50,000 placeholder for incidental road projects, or a new request there. Maintenance cost shows a small increase of $40,000 to increase for the increased fleet of our vehicles. Travel and training, $50,000 increase to account for more employees. Rentals, no change. Tourism, recreation, that's another item that has a big increase, but it relates to pretty much two items. We have one part of it is state accommodation tax recipients. This is budgeted to increase about $1 million, but because of the law, we have to spend the money. We currently have $1.5 million in fund balance that was carried over from last year that needs to be spent. And this year, we've collecting another 2 million. So that has to be spent. And another part or initiatives that fall under the tourism and recreation, or some of them are arts and cultural. There is no change, same as this year, 300,000. Beach monitoring went up for 10,000. The contract was just signed a couple of months ago. Wildlife programs and initiative went up $28,000. And Kiowa Conservancy went up to 100,000. So as you recall, in this year budget, we have 75,000 dedicated to purchase, or not purchase, but towards the new trail. Yeah, and some of the purchase of that land that Conservancy bought of Kiowa, of Betsy Carrison. So they asking that the 75,000 is moved to next year, plus additional 125, the total of 200, to the new trail and parking and enhancement on that side. Other costs pretty much same as was this year, and the capital expenditures. So there is a 2025 placeholder for the town extension to accommodate the new staff. That number came from based on the cost of the renovations in the garage. We asking for to replace new 3 vehicles and purchase 2 new vehicles to again accommodate new staff. And we have a 200,000 placeholder for the electric vehicle charging stations. There is a number of transfers, but we do them every year pretty much from one fund to another. I'm not going to discuss it. But what I would like for you to see, Michael, can you move go to page, yeah, that's page. So they see, they can see it, yeah. So what I want to bring your attention now, because this is all consolidated, what we just talked about, but this is more profound. And when you see that our general fund, we actually have a deficit. So to balance that general fund, it's on page 2. We're gonna have to balance it from our reserves. You see a big deficit in state accommodation fund, but we have to spend that money. So hence, we're gonna spend more than we're gonna bring in because we do have a balance, a fund balance. Other funds are pretty much, the good news, I mean, this is all a good news because we still, bringing in money, but we are supporting our capital fund and emergency fund. We actually not still adding to those, for the rainy day. And what all this proposed, if you can move, Michael, can you move to another page, please? So the very last, the bottom line, it will show you our balances, the fund balances after this budget is approved by you. So we still have budgeting to end up the year with about $39 million. Next year.
25.
So, yeah. So I was trying to be fast because I know it's late before the meeting.
Thank you, Dorota. Can I please have a motion to discuss or comment on?
So moved. Second.
That's not really a Robert's Rules motion.
It's weird. It's
Well,
weird.
I don't know. Do we need it? Yeah, so it's, yeah.
In this
You don't need a
particular case,
motion.
actually, because,
For a discussion.
but still.
No pending action.
So, all right. Any questions or concerns, comments to the budget?
I have a big concern. The community is going to pick up on this because that's what they do. But we have, for the labor expenditure for the calendar, I don't have the numbers in front of you, but I already did the math. For the calendar year ending 2025, the labor cost versus the cost in 2023. So we're looking at
3 years, 23,
it's a-
24, 25, 3 years.
40% increase in 3 years. That's,
Because of
I
this.
can't explain that, and I don't think, I am very uncomfortable with a 40% increase in 3 years. I don't know how we can do that.
So but the only thing, it's mostly because of the growth in the staff. So when you look for year 2023, the full-time equivalents, we have 23, and we're budgeting 29.
But still, a 40% increase.
Yeah, because we have not
That's-
only the increase in people, Russ, we also have, increased significantly our pay and our benefits, right? To be able to recruit, but also and retain our staff. And as you know, inflation has significantly increased labor cost, and that was reflected in already last year's budget.
I understand all of that. 40% is a huge number.
It is a significant number, Russ, and it gives me some pause as well. I would note that once it's kind of broken down in the fact that there has been a 25% increase in the head count, that accounts for a significant chunk. Now, whether you agree with that increase in head count and how people react to that is one thing, but just assuming that every one of those 6 was kind of an average pay, that accounts for 25% of the 40% it is taken care of just by the addition in head count. And then, yes, salaries have gone up, insurance costs have gone up, health insurance costs.
But it still relates to, so I understand that there is a request for additional headcount.
Yes, I requested for your consideration, and just to give you.
That in the 2025 number?
Yes.
But it's in the number, but it's not that we are approving this. So this additional person, where I have, for other reasons than the 40%, which we all are concerned about, but I think we all understand where that comes from. But this particular person that she outlined here as a revenue auditor, is in the budget, but we still need to approve it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there are also other ways. I will elaborate a little bit later on this. But at least it would be in the budget
I understand
for
what
us
you're
to
saying.
decide or not to decide.
I understand what you're saying. With everything that you guys just said, and I understand the mathematics behind all that, I have a hard time with a 40% jump. I just have a very hard time with that.
Okay.
Right.
And also, I didn't mention, so we're also asking for 2 interns. One is pretty much approved every year. It's for a planning department, and the Go Green initiative also requested an intern for the summer to help with, all those projects that they work on.
Just to pick up on Russ's point, I think it is probably worth a conversation of kind of what is the appropriate size of the town staff as a whole, because the way we've approached it heretofore is kind of looking at each need in isolation and staffing that, as opposed to saying, okay, we're willing to increase the head count or the labor budget by X. We've got to do a better job prioritizing within those positions. So not everyone that everybody thinks is needed is going to get approved and funded.
We're going to need to break down that increase in more detail so it can be readily explained, not just to me, but more importantly to the community.
So how can I do that? Well, just for example, like this 25 budget includes the request for the revenue analyst, and pretty much the total, including benefits, it's $100,000.
Well, I mean, it just goes to what Michael was explaining orally, the reason for the increase. One is indicate in the number the increase for inflation, the benefits, the additional staff, just a separate, just a breakdown of what the increase is all about.
Yeah, we can do this either in the next Ways and Means or in the retreat.
Yeah, I didn't mean that.
I think what Brad said is correct. We so far have looked at each individual request individually, right? And we were convinced that it's the right thing to do. So we approved, another wildlife expert. We approved the building services person, although as a temp, but still, right? And we approved another communication person. So, I mean, all of this in isolation, I think we looked at. It made sense to us, so we approved it. But I think we should probably dedicate some time in the retreat to look at it holistically. Right?
And
So
particularly
where are we coming from, right? What has changed since, right? What have been our priorities since that have changed and required us to have additional people? I mean, we're always talking about we want to communicate better, we want to communicate more, we want to communicate more like in the modern world, right? That's why we approved the additional communication person. Is that the right priority? Do we need to look at other things? So I think that's something we might want to really have a debate over during the retreat in May.
And particularly in the context of the point that Dorota made, which I hadn't really focused on, but it's a very good one, running a general fund deficit that's being subsidized by the reserve fund. We may want to have a policy that says no.
Exactly.
Yes, no, that's why I want to bring it to your attention that currently, we still balance. You'll approve with that balanced budget, but it's going to be balanced from the reserves. But also with that, there is those few requests, the capital requests that technically I can take it from capital fund, not general fund. Right now they're getting out of general fund because we want to build up the reserves. So I can make it that it's going to be balanced without taking from the reserve. I'll just take it, but I want to be as transparent.
So let's have that discussion during the retreat.
Right, and the reason why we're being transparent, because this had occurred under former Mayor Weaver, and the direction that we had got at the time was that they understood that we can balance the budget that's required by state law, but essentially they required us to go back, sharpen the pencils, and say, we don't want to pull from that. We want it zero. So we did have to go in and make adjustments. So that's why we wanted to make sure that you all are aware.
And then kind of related to that, and again, it's probably a retreat or strategic planning discussion, but with regard to the required expenditure of the ATAX funds within a period of time, if there are if there are funds that haven't yet been spent within the time allocation, what is the process that we're going through? How are we prioritizing to make sure we spend those monies, which we have to do, but it's being spent in a way that actually is consistent with kind of the community's broader interest? And one discrete question in that regard, to the point that the chairman had raised, and both with regard to the Key Island Parkway Leisure Trail as well as the Beach Walker Leisure Trail, is that something that could be spent solely, those funds solely out of restricted funds, the ATAX funds, because it is tourism promotion related?
Not solely, but we use our formula of 70%. We can't do 100% because residents do use that. So when we pull funds out of things like that, we typically charge 70% to the restricted funds because that's the formula we've used for state ATAX. But there may be something through the county that we have used. Is it still 70% or you're doing high?
In the interest of time, I would suggest that we are postponing that to the retreat. I think these are all very, very valid topics that we have to look at. And I fully agree on all these comments because I have the same feel. Since we don't have to approve anything today in particular, I would like us to focus on commenting, where we have other concerns that, Dorota needs to put into her budget or maybe take out of the budget. So if I may start with this. So I have my questions about this revenue auditor and what's the best way forward. Also, as it relates to, I would more like to see what the new process that we actually have put in place now to audit, for example, business license holders. And we are starting with the 10 biggest at the end of April to audit their books, what the outcome of this is. So, and that could lead us to, yes, maybe a full-time person, maybe a half-time person, or maybe outsource it, right? But having it in the budget, I don't have a particular, hesitation in general, except for what we just talked about. What I'm missing here, though, is what we talked about, Stephanie, some additional funds to support the town's clerk role. We talked about this just yesterday.
We just talked
so
about that yesterday.
Is that in here? Do
It's
we need
in,
to put it
I
in
just
here?
have to get it'll come out of my miscellaneous account, so yeah, that's
I
covered.
thought that would probably
Yeah.
be the case. So then I wanted to raise a few other questions. So under consultant cost, we still have $20,000 for traffic count. And I would like to question that now that the ARDA has expired, we don't have a requirement for a yearly count. Do we really want to continue this? Or maybe do it only every 2 years or every 3 years? Currently, it's $20,000. It's a $10,000 decrease for reasons I don't understand, but I want to bring this to your attention. As it relates to topic 9 under consultant costs, there are $20,000 for the Kiowa River Bridge access design as a new request. Given the events from this past weekend, I would be more inclined to take that out and pause this project, would be a second commentary.
I'm going to discuss that at town council, so.
So, and then under capital expenditures, I understand the replacement, although at least one vehicle has a pretty low mileage. I'm not sure that we have to replace it already, but it's also an older vehicle of now 11 years, so that probably makes sense. But the mileage also shows me that, do we really need to have 2 new vehicles only because we are increasing staff? Because honestly, I've never come to that parking lot without at least 2, 3, 4 vehicles standing there. So do we really need, only because we have more people, do we really need to have more vehicles, or can we maybe organize that a little bit better and save these funds? Those would be my comments to consider.
Just one observation with regard to the traffic count issue. At the very least, I would think we could reduce the cost of that, wholly apart from the frequency, by not necessarily extending it past the gate. We can get pretty good traffic count information, at least going through the gate from Kika. Maybe we would only want to periodically focus on the public roads that are owned by the town, KIP and Beachwalker Drive.
Well, in that vein, I would say, why do we need to do it? I understand with the ARDA, we had to.
We had to.
Yeah, I understand that, but why do we need to going forward?
I would just kind of comment, one, the town always do traffic. We've always done traffic counts.
Because we had to.
No.
Yeah.
We have traffic counter at the roundabout. It just doesn't produce enough necessary information that we all need. So we still count traffic regardless. We have that traffic counter that was built into part of the roundabout. I'm not sure people are aware of that. But the second thing was, additionally was because we had to, but I think from a perspective, we can always look at, as you said, Brad, maybe don't need to go behind the gate. This can be a placeholder. When we go out to get the cost, we could decide on if we want to reduce the number of counts per year. But this also helps from a planning perspective. We need to understand the amount of traffic flow that's coming onto the island. We need to understand if we need to do more with regards to when the new development that's coming in the unincorporated areas, the impact it's going to have onto our roads. So I think having some level of traffic count would help us understand when we're trying to look at planning needs long-term. That would help. We may not need to do it behind the gate, just keep it on public roads, maybe once a year in addition to the traffic count that we have at the roundabout. So I think it's a benefit that would go a long way for the town and for the
Russ,
planning
I'm thinking
department.
of one very discrete way in which that data might be useful, particularly to the point that Stephanie just made. If you're coming past the circle and you're going into Ando West, or as Ando West may build out, if there's substantial increase in traffic attributable to that, that might be underlying data that would support the imposition of impact fees, for example, or something. Because to do impact fees, you have to.
And you need to have the count.
Yeah, I think what I was trying to say, but I'm sorry if I didn't come across right, I'm not saying that we should not do them at all anymore. I'm just wanted to question if we really need to do them every year, or if we can do it every other year, or once every 3 years. That we should have a count, I agree. I see the benefit from it, but I just wanted to question us if we really need to do it every year. So,
And I don't know whether, how much of, I would be less concerned about every year if 75% of the cost was actually tracking traffic behind the gate.
Right.
As an example, I just don't know the answer to that.
And we can, and like I said, I think having something benchmark and maybe looking at it every year could be helpful. But then we can also look at just keeping it on the public road, and that could reduce the cost. I don't know what the cost is. I don't know how John came up with 20,000. If that was for behind the gate, or if that was just for our public roads. Maybe he can comment on that, give us a little bit more color to his number.
And being able to look at this year.
John, can you go into the mic, because we can't hear you?
Last year's was roughly 26,000, and the reason why it went to 26,000 just on, we switched to a different technology. So this year, it did include not just the cables that went across the road, but also cameras. And so with those two technologies, based on our last year's vendor, we can model a different concept. So we can either use just the cameras or continue with just the tubes across the road right away. But I did envision revamping just because of the ARDA requirements. We didn't necessarily need to go behind the gate based on those sectors, so we could lower that cost of what was budgeted last year, I think just around 25,000.
okay.
The cost is 20,000, that's in the budget.
In the budget is 20, yes.
From 26 to 20, so that's
Yeah.
why we reduced
Any
it.
other comments for Dorota?
I do need directions because in May, I'm going to bring you a first draft that will be approved, or it will go for approval. So I understand that there is some additional explanation I need to do, and I will add it, but as far as the numbers and as far as the requests, should we leave it as it is, make any changes, or how do you want me to proceed?
I need clarity on the labor
So
increase.
I can send it to you in the meantime before, and then present it at Ways and Means. But I'll be happy to do a little more detail, dive into that. But anything else that I need to change, reduce, add? No?
I mean, again, I would assume that, for example, about the traffic count, we can leave it in the budget, but are we then improving it?
You're approving the budget, but
Yeah.
you still have to come, the contract still has to come before you, so it doesn't mean
So
that you've
it can be in
actually,
the budget, but we still
yeah.
have then
time to not,
time to
Yeah,
say
to not.
yes or no,
that's correct.
which I think is.
And that's the same thing with regards to the extra employed in the finance department. Like you've done previously, you approved it in the budget, but we eventually come back to you for actual approval.
And the same with the vehicles.
The same with the
Exactly.
vehicles.
All right,
Exactly.
So then we have enough leeway over the course of the year to work on this, so, okay, thank you, Dorota.
All right, thank you. And I have a quick treasury report, but everything pretty much looks it's within the budget. After we made this amendment that helped to get those actuals to projected. One thing that will actually be it's not reflected in my write-up, it's going to be the solid waste cost because of this new contract starting early now. There is about $110,000 delta from what we're paying now and what we be paying Trident for those 2 months for collection. I have not included the rental, so it's going to be $120,000 more than what we have projected. But everything else is pretty much within the budget.
And then for clarity, I think we discussed that last time, Dorota.
It's all
is
cash
that you-
basis.
Exactly.
I went
that-
to all cash basis only I was thinking about this, but when I compared to last year, I had last year on cash basis, so for.
That's not just make a footnote that that's what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did it like on the top. But I can do it on the footnote, like when the town of Kiowa, cash basis, but I'll make it.
Okay, I didn't see that, that's okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right. Any questions for Dorota for the running year? No? Are we all good? Good.
All right,
Any
thank you.
Thank you, Dorota.
any committee members want to make comments? Russ? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?